This is the first installment in a series I'm calling the Wolfbot Alloys. The core of this signal path is Airwindows Wolfbot, a plugin that Chris Johnson based on the Wolfbox, a transformer-driven DI box that was invented in the 1950s and used extensively on Motown recordings in the 60s and 70s. The Wolfbot Bus is my effort to impart that transformer iron harmonic density in a controlled fashion to the low end of my digital mixes, giving them analog weight and warmth. To isolate this behavior, I've established a fixed Wolfbot Window, a bandpass filtered strictly between 80 Hertz and 200 Hertz. The plugin that I originally used for this was TDR Nova. Given its reputation for surgical transparency, for the purposes of these experiments, Nova is going to serve as our neutral baseline, our constant. The trajectory of this series is to determine how shifting the filter topology, feeding the bandpassed signal into Wolfbot, alters the texture and color of the analog weight imparted. So the protocol is as follows. Nova remains the control. Every variable bandpass will be peak matched to the best of my ability at the Wolfbot bus output to ensure gain parity. We begin with a forensic pass on Airwindows Meter, observing frequency, density, peak patterns, brightness, sonority, dark, percentages, observing it on a visual, data-driven level, and then we conclude with audible A/Bs. So the goal here isn't a binary better or worse verdict scenario, but rather to explore the palette of available textures and colors depending on the requirements of the mix. I'll provide my technical observations where they exist, but the data and the audio are open for your interpretation in the comments. And our first variable, our first alloy, is Airwindows BiquadHiLo with Airwindows Wolfbot. So here we go. I'm in the mastering project for this song. I did use the Nova bandpass Wolfbot in the mix. So that's already baked into the signal. But I also do another Wolfbot bus at the mastering stage. That's where we are now. So, full disclosure, there's already some amount of Nova bandpass Wolfbot baked into this mix. Okay. Anyway, here we go. You can see here I have my Wolfbot bus. And first, I've got TDR Nova, low pass at 200 Hertz. The slope is 12 decibels per octave. I can control that in Nova. I can't control that in BiquadHiLo. I don't know what the slope looks like. But I digress. Anyway, the second is TDR Nova with a high pass at 80 Hertz. Again, 12 dB per octave. Why two instances? I preferred it that way. You can try doing both in one instance and see what you think. Anyway, here we've got BiquadHiLo with high pass at 0.07, low pass at 0.18. I'm not a mathematician. I asked Gemini to calculate the settings. I think these knobs are logarithmic in nature, something like that. And Gemini and Grok are usually pretty good about these things. So I'm just going with what Gemini told me, and it sounds like a decent approximation. So there we go. that's basically the AB. Here I've got Wolfbot, and don't need that. There's the chain right there. So I'm going to start by soloing the bus, pulling up Airwindows Meter. And let's just look at, let's see, we're going to start with Nova, the Nova bandpass. I'm just going to hit play, and we're just going to watch, I don't know, 20, 30 seconds of it. And you're going to observe the Nova bandpass slowly increasing toward a dark percentage rating of 100%. And in the future, I'm not going to repeat this because this is what the Nova bandpass always looks like in Meter. For some reason, it'll start with a bit of a brightness rating, but it will always creep up to 99% dark, 100% dark. Okay, enough of that. Now I'm going to bypass Nova and engage the Airwindows BiquadHiLo bandpass, and again, same part of the song. And you can see that this bandpass is quite a bit more responsive to what's actually going on in the song. We've got a bit of bright, we've got quite a bit of sonority, and you got dark going up and down a bit, but mainly hovering in the mid to, well, oh, now it's down in the 60s. So it's quite dynamic and more responsive to what's actually going on frequency-wise in the song. Okay, so that's enough of that. It just gives us a visual sense of maybe what to expect when we actually listen, run an audible pass, and listen to the AB. So, with that out of the way, I'm going to go ahead and bring my master output back to 0.0. We'll start with the Nova bandpass. And I'm starting at a point in the song where, checking my time here, I'm starting at a point in the song where my National Reselectric part comes in. Up until this point, it's just the singer and his acoustic guitar. In comes the National Reselectric slide part. And I just think it's a good moment in the song to perform this AB. So I'm going to unsolo the Wolfbot Bus. Bus fader is set at -3.6. I think that's a little bit hotter than I'm going to end up running it when I go to print, but it's for the purposes of providing more of a contrast for the AB. I've got it set a little bit hot. So here we go. I'm going to bypass Nova. I'm just going to mute the bus, play through the entrance of the National, stop, enable the Nova bandpass, play the same section again. And then I'm going to rinse and repeat with BiquadHiLo. So here we go. Muting the Wolfbot Bus.
I'm holding the line for Whitesburg, holding it for the Rebs.
Okay, unmuting. This is the Nova bandpass.
I'm holding the line for Whitesburg, holding it for the ribs.
Now I'll just mute and unmute for a little bit.
Brother fought brother, father fought son. The angel of death carried his own damn gun. I can hear the river crying from its blood-stained rocky bed. The sound of soldiers dying by black powder and lead. Echoes from these battlegrounds run deep into our veins. Walk among the dead that fought in the grave.
All right, now let's go through the same rigmarole with BiquadHiLo. Again, I'm going to start by muting. This time I'm not going to talk. I'm just going to do what I just did.
I'm holding the line for Whitesburg, holding it for the ribs. Holding the line for Whitesburg, holding it for the ribs. Brother fought brother, father fought son. The angel of death carried his own damn gun. I can hear the river crying from its blood-stained rocky bed. The sound of soldiers dying by black powder and lead. Echoes from these battlegrounds run deep into our veins. Walk among the dead that fought in the grave.
Okay, so that's the first Wolfbot Alloy, Airwindows BiquadHiLo with Wolfbot. Let me know what you think in the comments. The difference is more pronounced in the mix bus. I'm sorry, not in the mix project. But I'm unable to, I've got too much CPU load in the mix project, and I just can't do this from there. I'd get too much glitching on playback. But hopefully you can hear the difference, and I know which one I prefer. I like the neutrality of the weight being added by the Nova bandpass in the mix project. But I like what BiquadHiLo is bringing at the mastering project level. Anyway, I hope you'll let me know what you think in the comments. This has been Vinyl Bear from lowly, humble Vinyl Bear Studio in lovely, scenic Paju City, South Korea. May the winds of clarity blow ever in your favor. Over and out.